Jamal Roberts off the left side with the lead. Roberts off to the races. He is gone. 63 yards.
Well, that was the capping score in a big Mizzou over KU victory on Saturday. I hope you're able to take it in. I'm Randy Tobler. Stephanie Bell and John and Drake, and we are the team. And boy, the team played great. A lot of scoring by different people. They had a lot of depth, right? It was a good show. They got started off a little bit shaky.
It was a rough start. I was nervous after the first quarter.
That scoop and score really had everyone stunned too. That if you didn't see that, a fumble by Prabula, and the guy picked it up. It was about a 20-yard, 25-yard deal.
Yeah, it was just a scoop and score. You know, I think the more surprising thing, there was a safety. And in, like, the higher level of football, you don't see that much. Yeah. So
but
that
then
was
wasn't
crazy.
there some controversy that our guy, like, purposefully batted it back or
Hey,
whatever?
the play was not reviewable, and so we are not going to talk about it anymore because that will hinder our name.
Hey, I think the fact that we were down in the first quarter and like had a comeback made the game even better.
It's a big deal.
It's
down by
huge.
15 points. Yeah.
And aren't we ranked?
Fun game.
We're ranked now, right?
Yeah, 25th, and that's the biggest comeback that Mizzou's done since 2015.
Wow.
So
against
yeah.
who was that against? In
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
So,
oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Another rival of ours.
And your guy, I'm going to say this wrong, Prabula, right?
Prabula.
Prabula.
Hey,
sorry. I can't pronounce that last name. All right. He's doing so good, Bo. He's like the stats say he had one of the better games of like any Mizzou quarterback in recent history, right?
Yeah, no, he's a dog. I mean, everyone was kind of joking that he was like on his Heisman campaign, but that's actually looking like a real thing now.
Well, and I saw so many people saying, like big sports people saying, I totally underestimated this guy.
Everyone did. We're Mizzou.
I apologize.
It's exciting.
I apologize for coming in the day after the opener and calling him Beluga. That was bad. Now I apologize.
He's quite the whale on the playing field.
It's a hard name.
There you go.
And we had the guy who kicked for the money that is making national headlines, right?
Yeah, the kid,
That was cool.
Yeah, that was just some good old-fashioned hate, and I love it.
So if you missed it, he had the opportunity, to kick for $25,000 and decided not to do it.
Hate is worth all the money in the world,
And instead turned and kicked the ball right at the Kansas bench.
Yep. And then he lifted up his shirt and it said FKU on his stomach.
That's when your principle prevails over the profits, right?
I think he has like a GoFundMe set up and people are like, let's donate and give him the $25K anyway, which is real hate. I love it.
Yes, gotta love it. Hey, we'll be talking with Scott Vaughn later as the Missouri House gets back into session today. Well, I guess, did they get in yesterday? No.
For 2 minutes.
For 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Just a formality?
They've got kind of like a protest going on by the Democrats right now.
What a surprise that is.
I
First
know.
time we've ever seen that, right? And they'll be, I guess, finishing up their work here in the next day or two. And then, as Cindy O'Loughlin told us on Wednesday, the Senate comes into full swing. And I guess sounds like everything's pretty much like Teflon. It's pretty slick, right?
Rolling right along.
Yeah, it'll be good. In other news, did you see the Georgia Hyundai battery plant raid where they took off like 475 illegals that the South Koreans had apparently either brought in or they stayed too long or whatever? They were involved in the construction of a plant there, and Tom Homan he's just doubling down on it. He says, "Well, yeah, we're just going to continue to do that. If you come in here in the country and you either overstay your welcome or you're here didn't have a welcome, that's what's going to happen." Meanwhile, of course, the left is saying, how do you like this martial law that Donald Trump's bringing to Chicago? A lot of interesting times that we have going on. We do need to talk about the Chiefs, don't we? I mean, we don't want to, but we should talk about the Chiefs.
I want to.
Okay, well, go ahead. And then, of course,
my
last night you were dancing on the ceiling with what happened to the Bills.
Oh, my God. This was the best week of college football. You know, Florida lost. The Chiefs also lost, and I was actually in a bar when that happened, so that was so much fun. And I'll let you know.
Were you taunting the Chiefs fans?
I was more taunting all the KU people.
Oh, okay.
And it was really hard to tell because in Columbia, there was a lot of people from Lawrence who came over, and everyone was wearing, like, Kansas City gear. Even the Mizzou fans, they were wearing their Chiefs jerseys. They were wearing their Royals stuff. So you never really knew who was who. But, the Chargers do look good. To give them a little bit of credit, the Chiefs played well. I don't think they're going to be bottom last. So, they lost. The Bills won. And a surprising team, the Colts, looked great with Daniel Jones. So hopefully he can beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. That's all I hope.
There were several top-tier teams took it on the chin, right? That the Lions were defeated, Baltimore were defeated, right?
Yeah, well, Baltimore got beat by the best team in the NFL. And the Detroit Lions, I do agree.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. What's the line on the Chiefs? Was this just a one-off? Or, did they show some real weakness?
I'm worried about them. They look lazy. They've been fat. I think it also has to deal with the game because division games always are kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You never really know what's going to happen. But, the Chiefs looked lazy. The defense was not there like it was last year to kind of bail them out when they didn't have a scoring drive. And, I think that the Chargers really wanted it because they've been talked about like they're third in the AFC West, and I think they're tired of it. So,
well, we'll have to see where it goes now. Who's their next opponent? Who do they play next? Do we know? I don't know. Boy, they got to get a win under their belt. You start off the season with a loser. Oof, not good. And they did just look a little flat, just looked a little flat. But, man, the Tigers were just it was just exciting stuff all the way along. That was
a good game, man. Oh, man, had everybody hopping, especially at the beginning of the fourth quarter, which we won't elaborate on. But the fans were singing along.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
We played a little bit of that, the family-friendly version on Friday. It looks like the Chiefs are facing the Eagles on September 14th.
Yeah, Eagles. Yeah, this weekend. So, oh boy.
Well, I'm glad that several people, Jamal Roberts, and then there was this. Norfleet had a great game, right? Look, he got two passes.
Prabula against pressure. Finds Norfleet. Off to the races. Touchdown!
So that was so Norfleet scored the first touchdown, right? And then the second to last one. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. But he had 2 touchdowns. I genuinely think he's the best tight end in college football right now.
It's interesting. He reminds me. Am I off base here to say he reminds me a little bit of Kelsey? I don't know. He's big. He sort of lumbers, but he gets the job done. Powerful.
He's
what is
kind
he,
of
like 9 feet tall?
Yeah, he's tall.
He's huge.
Maybe not as tall as
he's
Kelsey,
a big
but
kid.
Even though he just seems, and he found his way into the open. That was a beautiful play because they moved everyone. They shifted all of the the running back, the wide end, the wide receiver out to the right, and then he just sort of squirts out to the left. And he's like, "Here I am," and he just ran right in. It was a great play.
Yeah,
good play calling.
I would definitely relate him more to Gronk than I would to
you're right.
Kelsey.
You're right.
They're both great tight ends, but they're so much different. But he, a lot of the time, just gets out in the flat and he catches the ball and then just topples through anyone.
One of my favorite videos to come out this weekend was from a former Wake Up family member, Brad Trinago, who does work for Learfield now. But he was in the press box and he said, "I'm a professional," but on the last touchdown run, he's in the press box. And it's a video of him and he's just jumping up and down like a 12-year-old boy, And I think a lot of people had the same feeling during the game. It was just pure joy during the game. And so it was really cool to see that even the professionals get kind of hyped up for Mizzou during the game.
Telltales on Brad. Brad and I sat next to each other for years in the press box at Old Mizzou. And when the Tigers scored, we'd sneak a hand under the console and pound on the table in front of us without saying anything.
Yeah, you could tell they were hyped up, as was everybody in Columbia, Missouri. And I think this just, you think about the history and what it meant for the campus. There was the whole campus in Columbia was kind of a buzz all week last week. And so just a huge win for the Tigers. And I know a lot of people are like, it's weird that the border showdown is so early in the season. But when you think about what a win like that does for your team at the start, I think it's going to play out beautifully for Mizzou this year.
And what's interesting is I don't want to jinx us here, and maybe I missed something, but I didn't hear a peep about post-game violence or anything downtown. Did you? I mean, at least nothing major, no shooting or anything, which we've seen in the past on these heated rivalries. So
no, I mean, I think all of the nastiness I saw was before the game because the students did a really good job of trying to intimidate Kansas, and they said all their nasty things beforehand. And if you win, you don't really have to be nasty. You just have to high five and look at them the wrong way, right?
You and me are very different, Stephanie.
And they didn't cost the university $500,000. So,
yeah, by rushing the field.
Yeah,
that did happen this weekend. Mississippi State took down Arizona State.
I heard our friend Andy Humphrey talking that like perhaps like there's a time limit, and there are some universities saying that like, okay, we're going to run a timer and we'll let you run the field like at 3 or 5 minutes, and then if you do that, then you don't get the fine.
That might be right. I mean, I think the biggest concern is the safety for all the players, because if you're a 52 roster team and you're out there trying to get to the bus and you just got upset, you're swarmed by thousands of students.
And I think that's what they were saying is some universities were saying, hey, we're going to give everyone time to clear the field and then let the students do whatever they're going to do. Although if you've ever been to a game where they rush and then especially when they pull down the goal, like it's something you don't soon forget. It might be worth $500,000 or whatever it is.
It 100% is.
And a big shout out to all of you who came out to the Tiger tailgate. It was a lot of fun, packed, and it was really
funny.
great.
Randy and I were talking to a guy who was a football coach from Southern Illinois, singing the praises of listening to Wake Up Missouri. That's pretty cool.
He says, when I cross over into Illinois, and I guess was like shortly after he crossed over the river, he says, there's not a conservative station to be heard. And I said, well, you're the People's Republic of Illinois. So wait a minute now. Southwestern Illinois, Southern Illinois is a different place. We've thought of seceding, Just kidding.
So hi, Coach.
It was great. Hey, thanks for all of you that came out and said hi. And Dive Bar did a great job. Shangri-La was out there dispensing their goods. It was, look at Drake's doing his deal there. All right,
He is.
And we're gonna be talking to Scott Vaughn at 7:05. At 7:35, Caleb Jones, who is the boss of the electric cooperatives of Missouri. Because, boy, who isn't looking at their electric rates as we begin into the colder season now? That means turn on the heat. Ouch, gonna hurt. We'll be back with the DC Rundown after this.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
into Chicago to try to clean that city up, citing the multiple murders that have happened over the past few weekends. In addition, Tom Homan said Sunday that Chicago and other sanctuary cities should be essentially ready and expect federal immigration enforcement actions this week. While we are watching D.C., congressional leaders are trying to figure out whether or not there will be a government shutdown or whether we will meet the September 30 government funding deadline. Last week, there was still a lot of talk about a shutdown, although now both Republicans and Democrats are signaling they are open to a clean stopgap continuing resolution that would essentially keep the government open for 45 days, possibly longer. So they always do this to us, Randy. They say, no. And then right at the very closer to the last minute, they say, okay, we're going to keep it open. Because no one wants to get blamed for the shutdown ultimately. And each side would blame the other, I think, here. We are seeing House Democrats, of course, folded on the CR issue last year. And folks are now calling on Schumer saying, look, things have changed so drastically. The Democrats are saying this. Things have changed so drastically that we have to put our foot down. Donald Norcross from New Jersey said, the world has literally changed since that occurred. He made a calculated risk and it did not turn out well. I don't think he'll make that same mistake twice. So he is getting, Schumer's getting a lot of pressure from his colleagues. We are also watching confirmations. Now, we know Trump came out of the gate with some pretty quick appointments, and the Senate was confirming those just as fast as they could. There have been some people exit the administration already, like Billy Long, some others. And so there's still quite a long list of confirmations that needs to happen. There is talk in the Senate to potentially change the rule so that way they could kind of confirm folks in groups rather than one by one. The Democrats, of course, are not super happy, but this has been done before by the Democrats where they basically confirmed a slate of nominees, and that would speed up the process. So we'll keep our eyes on that. We are also watching Epstein. You know, I was driving in Jefferson City this weekend and I saw over the tri-level, people had a big banner and it said honk to release the files. That issue is not going away. Of course, Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna have a discharge petition before the body that would bypass the GOP leadership and basically force a vote on directing the DOJ to release all of the files related to Epstein. So that fight will continue to play out. Japan, their prime minister is resigning. Of course, they struck the tariff deal with the U.S. This doesn't really have anything to do with this, but the leaders' party lost its majority in the upper chamber in July. And so after, I think, less than a year on the job, he is resigning. The president was watching tennis here recently. Apparently, there were lots of Twitter posts about whether he was actually booed or cheered. I think probably a little bit of both is the actual facts. But and we're also getting some inflation data this week. We've got producer price data out on Wednesday, and the consumer price index will be released Thursday. Of course, that is ahead of the September 16th, 17th Fed meeting where they will decide whether to cut interest rates.
When was the last time there was actually a budget? And I mean, it's been forever these CRs have been going on.
I'm going to have to ask.
I mean, it's been
ChatGPT.
years, right?
Yeah. I'm going to have to
many
dig down
administrations.
Yeah, it's been a while.
What would happen if the ICE people came into your neighborhood and hauled folks away? We'll talk about that when we come back on Wake Up Missouri at 6:35.
Hardy again, straight ahead. Slips free. Hardy's off to the races. Touchdown! 32 yards to the house.
That was the first touchdown for the Tigers on Saturday. Running back Hardy. Hardy did great. Roberts did great. Norfleet. I mean, they had a variety of weapons on the offense. It was good to see. Welcome into Wake Up Missouri. I hope you got to check out the game. And now the Tigers are ranked, right, Drake?
Yes, we're ranked 25th in the nation.
So now, they win the next game. They just start ratcheting up, right? And pretty soon they'll be in the top 10, we hope, by the end of the season. Maybe.
Well, it depends on how everyone else plays.
Well, it also depends on if, ESPN and everyone still hates us.
You think there's a vendetta against us? Why?
Always.
Why
no one respects us. I mean, that's just the plain old truth of it. They think that we're, a bum team, even though we went 10-3 last year.
Flyover country team.
Flyover country. It was just, we don't get
darn
any love.
Upstarts that dared to join the SEC. We haven't gotten any respect since day one of the SEC.
We insurged on the legacy SEC. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Is that a verb, insurged?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It was really exciting, but I got to tell you, I didn't have to get out the nail clippers this weekend because I already took care of it with my teeth during that first quarter. That was rough, But they did great. I mean, to come back, I think that
because they tied the game by halftime, right? Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, they tied it by halftime, and I think we're overlooking that the Kansas offense is actually really good.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's the thing that, everyone we haven't talked about yet. Jalen Daniels is he's I'm not going to say a good QB because, he's a Jayhawk. And
he's talented. He's talented.
Yeah, he's a talented QB. There you go.
Well, and then, of course, when you take the lead on offense, and then your defense does the scoop and score, and suddenly you've got momentum like crazy, right?
Yeah, and the momentum didn't help because it's also a rivalry game.
Yeah, right.
The fans were. You had to win this game. This is one of those games that you will get fired as a coach if you're, mediocre.
So imagine that it's a Friday afternoon or middle of the day, and maybe you got off early from work and you're heading home and you're driving home. You pull in your driveway. You're living on a small, quiet, secluded neighborhood in Springfield or Jefferson City or Columbia, and a quiet little. Maybe there's 10 or 12 houses on the neighborhood, and all of a sudden, you have. Well, this was actually this was in the morning. Federal investigators and local police come in and raid one of your neighbor's homes. They haul off a couple people, and it turns out that those people own a restaurant. They happen to be of Asian extraction, and they've been accused of harboring undocumented immigrants. And you had no clue about it. You just thought they were quiet, peace-loving people. These kind of stories, this is a story out of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. This happened in
and the buffet
St. Peter's, right?
is closed.
The restaurant was closed on Friday. The raid happened actually on Tuesday. And they said that when the reporter went to the restaurant, said that the owner was in the hospital.
Sure he was.
But these are the kind of stories that with moderates, maybe people that are swing voters, Biden now and Trump then, and whatever.
But here was the tell. They said that there were the neighbors noticed an increase in out-of-state licensed vehicles parking on the street.
Yeah.
I always get suspicious when one house has 8 vehicles. I'm like, what's going on in there?
But the headlines and these kind of stories of ostensibly peaceful people being hauled off by ICE workers, these are being played over and over. That reel is looping. It's looping on the major networks that a lot of people watch and listen to. Not Wake Up Family. I mean, we're in tune with the fact that these people are illegal. They need to. But apparently, in many people's minds, it's okay to come here illegally, as long as you don't commit a crime, a violent crime, right? In many, many people's minds. Because you hear stories. I mean, you go through your Twitter scroll and you'll see there's people that now they're just going after these innocent people. They're just trying to earn a living, for crying out loud. Well, they're taking away jobs from Americans. And as Trump said about the Georgia Hyundai battery plant raid, they're taking jobs away. Some of these may be skilled jobs. They are skilled jobs. They were building that plant. What about the skilled workforce training at Lynn or, wherever that maybe could have a job like that would pay quite well, I'm sure, with South Korea making an investment, Hyundai making an investment here like so many companies are. I mean,
yeah, and with St. Peter's, it was just a couple of people, but at the Hyundai plant, it was 475 people were were arrested.
They were either here illegally or they'd overstayed their visas, allegedly, right?
Yeah, and I think they said each person got like an individual interview, and they did let some people go that could prove that they were here legally.
I mean, whenever you do a dragnet like this, there's going to be stories that pop up about the person who was erroneously arrested, but they rarely report that they were released shortly after, right? That's not that always appears at the bottom of the story, or maybe in the story, the follow-up story, 5 days later. And I just think that this is going to be how this plays in the midterms, because the midterm, it's starting now. We're a year away for all practical purposes, right? The campaigning is going to be hot and heavy. I think once they get over the congressional, if they extend, if they do a continuing resolution, if they pass, I don't think they're going to pass all 12.
Oh, yeah. You asked me earlier, when was the last time Congress actually did the real budget process? So the last time Congress passed all 12 individual appropriations bills after adopting a budget resolution, 1976. 1997.
Yeah.
So they passed it in 1996, excuse me. So it's been 30 years.
Can you imagine? 30 years. And it just seems like if you're a congressman, congresswoman, senator, that's just part of your job. It's something you got to do, right? I mean, why can't they get their act together?
I mean, I don't know why we don't have more people running just on that platform.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to actually follow the regular budget process.
But you know what happens in that case? They have a noble goal, a noble platform, a noble agenda, and then when it doesn't happen, the next cycle, it's like, oh, yeah, overpromise, underdeliver. There you go. That's the problem. They set themselves up when they're not wholly responsible for that. You'd almost need to get a nationwide coalition.
A new party.
Balanced budget amendment for the federal level.
Yeah. How long has that been floated?
Oh, forever.
Where's Elon's third party going? I think he backed down on that, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. Who would the third party hurt more? Would it hurt the Dems or the GOP?
Well, if it's sponsored by Elon, I think it hurts us.
Maybe you saw Bernie and what's his name, Mamdani. They were on the stump from the oligarchy tour, right? The Stomp Out oligarchy tour. Sanders is totally in the tank with Mamdani. That's a good thing, I think, for conservatism in general. That's fine. If that's the way Mamdani wants to further brand himself and double down on it, good for him. Go for it. It sounds like unless they can get, and now Adams is being floated maybe a Saudi Arabian ambassadorship so that he'll back off.
I mean, New York mayor sounds pretty cool, but ambassador is at the top of my list for cool jobs. Yeah, I think he should take it.
Would you like to be an ambassador to a Middle Eastern country? Wouldn't you as a woman have to do, I mean, they're modernizing a little bit, but would you?
I would like to be an ambassador.
Would you take that one if it meant subordinating your feminist instincts?
I don't have feminist instincts.
No,
I think there are some countries. Surely, I think.
Well, I'm not saying
there are some countries I prefer rather than others.
What I mean is, championing women and women's rights and all that. Would you be able to basically tamp that down if you if you were an ambassador for a Middle Eastern country? And I don't see you doing that. Would you do it?
I think I would.
Really?
If you had the choice of New York mayor or ambassador to whatever country, I'd pick ambassador. But essentially, what they're trying to do is right now there's a three-way race, and there's talks. Or there's rumors that the Trump administration has been offering Eric Adams a job, that way setting up a two-way race, which they think perhaps then we could defeat Mamdani.
I don't know. I think he's going to be the mayor, and God love him. Good. Do the experiment. The council will be all behind him. It'll fall on its face when rent controls go in and landlords just say, forget about it. I'm not doing this. I'm losing money, right? I mean...
Yeah, but I think Trump's taken a unique interest in cities, right? And understands that, like, our local governments are very important. And, if you can't be safe in your city, if the cities aren't thriving, then the rest of the country, especially our larger cities, aren't going to thrive. So I think you're going to see Republicans come together to try to find a way to keep New York out of the hands of a socialist.
In another story, since it's the Monday after a Sunday, and many of you may people of faith go to church on a Sunday, and other days for that matter, but did you see that there's an AI-generated Bible that's sort of Marvel-esque and sort of sensational? It almost looks like a video game in some points, and there's a lot of controversy over whether or not that's the right thing to do, whether it's cheapening the spiritual message of the Bible. But if you look at some of the trailers, Drake, you ought to see this. I put it there on the sheet. You ought to take a look at this. It's really dramatic. It does look sort of video-esque, and I don't know. I don't know what to think about
When
it.
water damage happens.
I don't know whether that's a good thing because at least it connects people with the Bible. Some theologians say yes. Others are saying no, that's not right. It's sort of cheapening things, and they're taking license with controversies in the Bible. It's sort of like the argument over The Chosen. There's a little historical drama license taken during that. But on balance, I mean, what do you think, Drake? You think is that something good since a lot of young people are taking faith back into their hearts?
I think this is terrible. I mean, AI gets stuff wrong, and if we're basing our beliefs off of an AI that gets stuff wrong, then I think that we have a problem.
But I think you could kind of see it as a gateway drug into stories that are, I mean, as long as it's based in biblical stories, it could, introduce people who wouldn't otherwise be introduced. And, you could be watching that or playing video games, right? So perhaps it will reach a new audience. I mean, this debate's been going on for a long time. I have a copy, I was looking it up, of the story, which is the Bible rewritten like a narrative, like a novel. And I think it was a really interesting perspective, but I'm sure there are people who think that is blasphemy.
Well, we are a visual people increasingly, right? I mean, first there were audio podcasts. Now everyone's got a video
I was
podcast.
a little mad video too. And I was a little mad when I saw my daughter reading the graphic novel of the Babysitter's Club and not just the words on the page. I'm like, come on, like Babysitter's Club's a book, not a picture book.
When do we get simply watching Jesus say, turn the other cheek? That's not going to be much of an action movie trailer, said one theologian. Pray.com is doing that one. He said that they look over the AI. They're careful about it. They're not just letting AI run wild. It's curated. What do you think? 573-874-9390. Make Missouri healthy again when we come back.
This is
In the Make Missouri Healthy Again segment today, I want to talk about keeping you healthy if you're having surgery and avoiding problems. With marijuana on the uptick, I think alcohol's on the downtick, marijuana's on the uptick. Maybe there's a relationship, maybe there isn't there. But whether you smoke or vape or eat or use tincture, however you use it, if you're having surgery, it's the beginning of another big week along all of our, whether you're in Cox or Mercy or, St. Mary's or Cap Regional or Boone or MU Health Center, and you're having surgery or it's coming up, make sure you tell your anesthetist about the fact that you're using marijuana if you do. Chronic users, now that's defined from a medical standpoint as at least once a week. So as little as just once a week. Let's say, a couple times a week on the weekends, you're enjoying some THC. You're likely to require more anesthesia than those who don't use marijuana or opioids. We know that if you're taking tramadol or Tylenol with codeine or Percocet or Vicodin for a chronic condition, that it can certainly, herald more anesthesia use. And folks don't want, the anesthetist, the surgeon doesn't want you to wake up in the middle of the case. They don't want you to feel the pain if there's an incision being made. So it may take longer. And the other thing is, it may sort of slow the emptying of your stomach. And so one of the big concerns when you undergo anesthesia is that you might, have a little reflux and regurgitation. It goes down the wrong tube into your larynx and into your lungs. It's a devastating problem. So that's why we ask you not to eat, for several hours before you have surgery, eat or drink anything. If you have pre-existing heart disease, there's a risk of heart attack if you use marijuana within 60 minutes of receiving anesthesia. I don't know. Maybe someone might want to do that if they're, wanting to relax because of the anxiety. I'm not sure. But I'm not sure that this is known by many people. So I just wanted to bring it up there. There can be some cross-reaction between opioid receptors, and opioids are what is used to put you to sleep, and marijuana. So please, it's very, very important. There used to be stigma around it, and people probably didn't want to tell doctors that they were using marijuana. I never bothered me. If you're using it, I want to know about it because that might alter what we're needing to do, either diagnostically or otherwise. But man, can you imagine if your anesthetist doesn't know it, and then they use the standard based on your height and your weight and whatever calculations, and then all of a sudden, it's like, why is this taking so much more to get the job done? It's a big problem. And then that throughout the case creates challenges for them as well. Whereas if going into it, they know it, they can plan for it, and they can address those problems.
I know one thing about surgery, and that's for sure I don't want to wake up in the middle.
You hear these stories, right?
No, thank you. Give me all the anesthesia.
Yeah. Using marijuana, I didn't know this. I thought you had to be more of a regular user. Just once a week affects those receptors in the body enough that can have an impact on your, so if you celebrate it over the weekend, either before or during or after or whatever the game, and then you're having surgery Wednesday, make sure that you let someone know about it. That's all. Very important. And I think that along with that, there's the safety concerns too. So I think it's very, 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 very important.
So get drunk before you go into surgery instead of get high is what I'm hearing?
Well, if you drink on the weekend and you have surgery on Wednesday, unless you have chronic liver problems relating to the drinking, which is unlikely, but if you do, that's a different story. But the acute effect of the alcohol isn't going to bother you on a Wednesday.
No, I meant like the, pregame so you're not anxious or whatever.
Yeah, right. Have a pour. They tell you to take your medicines with a sip before you take your morning medicines with a sip. How about a sip of some Jack Daniels, No, I don't think that's approved. That's not approved. You didn't hear that here on Make Missouri Healthy Again.
I guess I'll have to settle for the cigarettes.
Nothing per os. NPO means NPO. Scott Vaughn coming up, 7:08.
From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters, it's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team. And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Paul, I got to be careful. This wind's got my comb over going the wrong direction. I'm 3 haircuts away from looking like you, man. I got to get this thing fixed. What the world?
Laird, I don't know when I don't know when this day will come, but if some charity in Columbia decides to have a roast honoring Coach String, please invite me.
We have a roast every day at my house. My girls take turns taking care of that, so ain't no worries there.
Well, that was Coach Drinkwitz having some fun with Paul Feynman after the victory the other day. It was great. The wind's got my comb over going the wrong way. That was good.
And on a day that's like so significant for your career and important for the community to be able to be that lighthearted, he's got a presence for sure. And our friend Scott Vaughn's also having a roast today.
Yes, that's right. He joins us now, as he does every Monday, on Wake Up Missouri, publisher of Missouri Times and host of This Week in Missouri Politics. Scott Vaughn joins us. Big roast tonight, huh, Scott?
Absolutely. We're excited. We're going to roast Senator Cindy O'Loughlin. If there was ever a politician that was a target-rich environment for a roast, it would be Cindy. Myself, Speaker Patterson, Senator Rusty Black, Drew Dant from the governor's office, and Jeff Rowe will be taking the dais this evening to all in all good nature make fun of Senator O'Loughlin for a good cause. The Safe Passages domestic shelter in Moberly.
But in Cindy O'Loughlin fashion, I expect a point-by-point rebuttal on her Facebook page the next day.
Yes. It's we might make it out of the building tonight, okay, but the Facebook wrath will be tough tomorrow.
Now, those who don't know, Jeff Rowe, prominent name in politics.
Yeah, he Ted Cruz's campaign manager when he ran for president, owns got to be one of the biggest Republican consulting firms in the country. Yeah. I don't even know how many states Jeff's in anymore, but he has ran races all over the country with for a ton of names that you'd recognize. Mm-hmm. Jeff is a truly national figure of the Republican Party, but we claim him as a Missouri boy from Brookfield, Missouri, up in Lynn County, and he's coming home tonight to raise some money and have a good time with Cindy.
Well, it's always a lot of fun when Scott Vaughn gets a assemblage of people together, and it's always a great event. So hope it's a great one for you tonight. I do want to ask you about the Chiefs' tepid performance the other night. And I got to thinking about it. I mean, no one wants this. My God, the last thing we want is a bad season for the Chiefs. But were that to happen, Scott, do you think that would in any way, shape, or form influence either the Chiefs' ownership or the political establishments in Kansas or Missouri in terms of the battle over where the new stadium's located?
Gosh, if what the Chiefs have done over the last several years, if that doesn't cement their place in the community and in the state, I don't think 1 year is going to matter. I mean, if you were going to reward the Chiefs for on-field success, what would you possibly hold back?
Right.
To me, if on-field success factors at all into these decisions, they have more than surpassed whatever bar they needed to surpass. I think they've proven they do their best to put a great product on the field, and they have. So if on-field success matters, the Chiefs should get 2 stadiums, and the Royals should lose their 1.
All right. Special session is officially underway. The Senate will go in Wednesday. The House went in their committees last week, but there's something going on the House floor with the House Democrats. They're sticking around. Can you explain to us what's going on?
A little hard to explain. I think their take is you can't do business in the House without a quorum. Now, I don't know. You'd have to ask Chuck Hadfield or Mark Ellinger or you, Stephanie, if that's actually real. It's an interesting legal theory. I'm not qualified to assess it myself, but some folks that I do respect have said, yeah, why not? It's a Hail Mary, but they might come in. I think they have a better chance on that legal argument than getting rid of this map, but they're sitting on the House floor waiting for the Speaker to call on them. Now, as I understand it, the Speaker's been home all weekend with his family, so I don't know. I mean, I guess they're trying to garner attention. Look, it's tough when you're in the super minority and you just lose election after election, and you're one of the 40-some that make it, I mean, you don't have much opportunity to make an impact. You can't flee to another state like the representatives in Texas, and you don't have a lot of opportunities to make a difference. So they're trying to, I guess, generate attention from this by sitting on the floor all weekend.
Scott, that notwithstanding, how soon do you see, one, the House will get the issues wrapped up, and two, send it on to the Senate?
I expect the House to perfect the bills today. I would say they'll third read them no later than Wednesday, so they can get them sent over to the Senate, and the Senate can refer them to committees Wednesday. I would expect committees in the Senate to fire up right away. I think you're going to see Friday is the day that this will be perfected on the Senate floor, and probably late enough that they can go just adjourn into the next legislative day and third read them. So I suspect by the weekend or Saturday, you'll see these maps are completed and on their way to the governor's desk, who he said he'll sign them. It is his map, after all.
Talking with Scott Vaughn this morning on Wake Up Missouri. Scott, I talked with a couple of, and these were just sort of casual conversations that just meandered into the whole special session thing. I mean, it started out on a totally different topic, but I would call the acquaintances I talked to solid, very solid Reagan Republicans, okay? Conservatives, Reagan conservatives. They're not comfortable with the whole special session redistricting and initiative petition thing. It's very, very interesting. And I just wonder what that means. Should there be redistricting, which is going to happen? Should the IP reform go on? Could some of the now a little more at risk congressmen in those districts, maybe, more tighter election jurisdictions in general, could that bode ill for Republicans in the next election cycle?
There was a time I would have said possibly, but I just don't believe that anymore. I mean, is there anybody except your most rancidly partisan people excited about the gerrymandering? No, it is clearly rigging the rules, but you can't convince people in Kansas City to vote Republican, apparently. So you just throw your hands up, stop trying, and you try to rig the game. Is it shoddy? Is it beneath Mike Kehoe? Probably all those things, yeah. But it's just, this is not done to benefit Missouri. This is done to benefit a national political party at their order, actually, done on their timetable in their manner. So, no, I don't think there's the legislators, outside of your suburban, just crazy whack job partisans, the Republicans aren't thrilled about this. Look at Governor Kehoe when he did that announcement. How happy did he look when he announced the special session? He did everything but hold up that day's paper like he was taken hostage. No, they all know this is shoddy. I don't know if they know it's wrong, because there is a great argument, and if Illinois is going to do these things, you should too. Nobody feels great about this except you're just wildly partisan kind of crazies on the Republican side. Do any regular people care? No, I actually don't think they do. I don't think any close race is going to be decided by independent voters. I don't think not one independent voter. If you know what the congressional lines are, you know who you're voting for, and you're not changing. So no, I don't think this will affect any of the how people vote. I have found that Democrats, there's been a push since 2014, right, that the Republicans were going to lose seats, that the Democrats were going to make a comeback. The Republican Party had stretched too far. And the Democrats every year come up with something insane, like there should be boys and girls sports, or you should defund cops. And they shoot. If the Democrats in this state had an 11th toe, they'd find it and shoot it off too.
What do you think? Will there be a lot of money pour in from outside, though, when that happens? Because it will. And will that hurt campaign coffers?
Well, the truth is, for every race in this country, you're going to see after the primary here in this state, you're going to see a late summer around the state fair, when kids get back to school, maybe poll. If Ann Wagner's numbers are in trouble, then they'll pour money in. If in this new fifth, Jason Kander's a very good politician. Mm-hmm. If he were to get in this race will be close. You will not have the luxury of just nominating some crazy person from Jackson County. Mm-hmm. You're going to need a vote getter. But overall, I mean, Donald Trump defies reality. Donald Trump has a very special relationship with the people of this state. And, all it would take is Donald Trump to touch down somewhere in that new 5th district, and they'd be all in. I tend to think that it'll be a 5-point race when it's over. But a guy like Jason Kander, okay, he can make it tight. But I don't think it'll affect anything. I think the Democrats, as long as Donald Trump is on television every night, there are core constituencies that used to make up the Democratic Party that will vote Republican. And until Donald Trump's not on television every night, then I just don't think the Republicans in the state have a problem. And even if they did have a problem, I'm equally as confident that the Democrats will invent some new insane issue that makes it very hard, frankly, to take them seriously.
All right. Well, I think it's going to be fascinating to see I think the fallout from this redistricting and the torrent of opposition that we're going to see in the wake of it, Scott's going to be really interesting to analyze. Because
I'll bet you a cold frosty Bud Light that not only will the torrent of opposition not move the needle at all, I'll bet you a beer that it actually emboldens folks. Because what the oxygen of Donald Trump is how ridiculous his enemies act about him. And I think you bring a bunch of people up there with the purple scum stripes and their Priuses protesting. Jason Bean, do you think that's going to deter Jason Bean? No, it's probably going to kind of annoy him and make him even happier to do this. I think the opposition will be helpful to the Republicans and regular people. They're going to look at that and think, what a bunch of weirdos.
Oh, no, you're right. I mean, it'll depend how that coalition messages itself. But if you get a bunch of rabid progressives along with some moderate to right moderate folks together, it could get interesting. Like you say, it could get interesting, some of these races. It won't be a cakewalk is what I'm hearing you say in some places, potentially. That's going to be fun.
In some places, but I don't think it's going to be because of this.
Oh,
I mean, it's just like a lot of normal Republicans look at the freaks in the Republican Party and be like, I don't want to be affiliated with that. I think regular Democrats look at the freaks on that progressive side and think, I'm not getting with those people.
That's right. Yeah. No, I think there is a safety there. There's a bit of a cushion for the GOP to. I mean, look at what's the alternative. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
Hey, yeah. Well, good. Hey, listen, we'll see you tonight, and look forward to that roast. And I imagine it's going to get so warm that we can wear our short sleeves. That roast is going to be so hot and heavy. It'll be fun.
You know it, buddy. See you tonight.
See ya. All right, there he is, Scott Vaughn. When we come back, I've gotta wonder. Is there anything to be said about the jobs report on Friday, the labor market? I'm hearing more and more murmurs of inflation discomfort. We'll talk about that at 8:08, but when we come back, electricity and the cost of that when we talk about Missouri's electric cooperatives. Stay tuned.
You're listening
victory over KU the other day. Joining us in studio is Caleb Jones. He's the CEO of Missouri's Electric Cooperatives and a big KU fan, right, Caleb?
No. I'm flying the Tiger flag. I'm a proud
Not the case,
Mizzou
right?
member.
No, I'm kidding you. Boy, I did a little video from the Tiger tailgate as we were starting, and I'm not kidding you. I was there at the opening game, and yeah, people were excited. It was fun. There was a hustle and a bustle. But I said, if I sweat anymore, I'm going to spark to death. The electricity in the air was unbelievable. I mean, it was just unbelievable. For 2.5 hours before the game, it was already ramping up.
It was really, I mean, a Mizzou game is always great, but there's just something different about Mizzou and KU. It doesn't matter if it's basketball, football, hopscotch. It makes for a great game.
You said you've got kiddos and you like to take them to the game, but there are some games in your memory that are just like burned into your memory. I remember when the goalpost came down against Nebraska when I was in college. That's like the game that I remember. I mean, this is a game that kids are going to remember.
Rest of their lives. So I've got a 12-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl, and I'm always trying to create, my wife gives me grief about this, core memories, these things that are embedded forever. And last year, we took our kids to the MU-KU basketball game.
Oh, yeah.
KU's ranked number 1. We're trying to figure out kind of our path, and we beat them like a drum. And I just remember my kids looking at me saying, can we rush the court? Can we rush the court? I'm like, absolutely. Like, lock and load. Anytime you beat KU, you celebrate.
That's right. Well, we avoided the fine, I think, this weekend by staying off the field. But I think at some point that's got to come back. Because that Nebraska game, I remember, those goalposts were goners.
I still have a piece of goalpost from the late 90s in my office.
Caleb, we've got you in here. Talk to us about rates in the co-ops across Missouri. Lots of us are members. Stephanie is, I know, a member of a co-op. What's driving up the rates?
Sure. What's driving up the rates is driving up the cost of eggs, the cost of milk, the cost of life. Just really inflation is causing rate increases. I'm obviously really proud of our Missouri Electric Co-ops across the state. What's really interesting about this is co-ops are really the last true form of capitalism in the utility world. If you think about it, we're nonprofit. So that if a co-op makes profit, at the end of the year, they give it back to the members. And that's really what is our driving goal, force, and focus on this. The reality is the cost of transformers have gone up about 55%.
Wow.
In the last 2 years. The wire that you see along the road, that's gone up almost 90%. A bucket truck, that's up 30%. So just the cost of keeping your lights on has gone up. And then step that into a lot of the push, mostly by the federal government, to change our energy mix is also really driving that up.
That's Caleb Jones. He's the CEO of Missouri's Electric Cooperatives. We're going to talk about more of this. Why are the costs of input going up more than inflation? Does it have to do with federal policy? Is it just bad luck? That and more when we unpack it at 7:35. to Wake Up Missouri on if you're a Mizzou fan, and who isn't, a big victory on Saturday. So most people are feeling up. If you're a Chiefs fan, well, you forgot about it. That was on Friday. We don't care about that. But we do care about the fact that electricity is absolutely essential to this country, to our own personal economies. And someone that knows just a little bit about that is Caleb Jones. He's the CEO of Missouri's electric cooperatives. Caleb, let's talk a little bit. Thanks for being with us in studio, nonetheless. You get extra bonus points for that. Thank you so much. I think a lot of people are sort of their minds fog out and their eyes glaze over. Cooperative, what is that? It sounds a little communist, actually. Co-op. What am I going to do? Co-op, as opposed to Amarin. What's the difference between corporate electricity and cooperative electricity?
Well, we don't call the investor-owned utilities corporate electricity. I'll start with that. I support.
Well, I can call them that.
That's right.
You don't have to.
I support all lights turning on. Let me stand by that's my core base. Look, the electric cooperatives. We're a nonprofit, member-owned, member-controlled organization, and it's the history. Whenever I start here, I really didn't really know a lot about the history of electric cooperatives. The electric cooperatives were formed in the 1930s for one reason and one reason alone, and that's because all of the electric companies across the country left rural Missouri, rural America out. If you owned an electric company, where are you going to serve? You're going to serve where people are next to each other. You can stack up customers as far as you can see. And what was happening was the cities were turning their lights on, and rural America was left in the dark. Mm-hmm. And so the federal government created something called the RUS program, basically a loan program that allowed groups of, really at the time, local farmers to come together and form these cooperatives and try to get lights on in rural America.
Now, you mentioned one of the big differences is local control, and we've got some elections, I know, coming up here in Boone County, but talk to us about that process, who controls it, how they get to be in power.
Yeah, absolutely. Our electric cooperatives are ran, so we have 40 distribution cooperatives in the state of Missouri. Each of those have local elections for board members. So we have an election coming up here in Boone County, September 11th. From 10 to 6 at the Boone Electric Cooperative's headquarters over on Range Line. If you're a Boone Electric member, I'd urge you to swing through, drive by and vote. They have drive-up voting. Won't take you very long. You'll get a little update from how they're doing with their annual report as well. But basically, every one of those 40 cooperatives has an election for their board of directors. Mm-hmm. And that board of directors decides what that co-op does, how they do, and what they're pursuing.
Caleb, talk to us about how the Missouri Public Service Commission's their responsibilities are, and they can look at the safety of co-ops,
yep,
but they can't set rates, correct?
Yep, that's right. So the Missouri Public Service Commission is a government entity, and if you are an investor-owned utility, they set your rates. They approve the rates that you set. And the reason is those investor-owned utilities, God love them, but they're trying to make a profit too.
Amarin, Liberty, Evergy.
That's correct. They're trying to make a profit. And so there's a government entity that watches over them to make sure they don't try to increase rates too high and take too much of a profit. Since we're locally owned, locally controlled, we don't have to have a public service commission, a government entity, set our rates for us. The local co-op sets those rates. So that's what really sets us apart. The one thing that we do work with the PSC a lot on is safety. Obviously, one of our things we're very proud of. We have one of the best safety programs in the country here in Missouri for our electric co-ops.
So there's a lot of controversy with the changing of the guard federally in terms of, respecting legacy energy, right? Fossil fuel energy and increasing domestic supply, really doing away with, maybe not totally, but certainly phasing out the subsidies for electric, for solar and wind and everything else. On the other hand, as independent nonprofit entities, right, you've got to go purchase your stuff, right? You got to buy your product.
So
we then have to deliver.
We actually generate our own electricity. The Missouri Electric Cooperatives are one of about a handful in the country. We actually own the generation that feeds you as a co-op member own the
That's
coal, gas, wind, hydro that gets served to your house.
100%?
Yes.
Okay. So, for instance, there's a controversy about a transmission line coming across the area, and I read from the people that support it that, hey, that's going to provide electricity to some of these small communities in Carrollton and on the way over. I mean, how does that in any way intersect with your business?
No, it doesn't. Not at all. Okay. We've got our own transmission lines. We've got our own generation. You know, we have 2 coal plants. We have 7 gas plants. You know, we have hydro. A lot of that comes from federal dams. You asked if we purchase any. We do buy electricity from the federal government from their hydro dams. And then we also have wind. We've probably got more wind, I think, maybe than every utility in the state.
So talk to us about that pressure. I mean, obviously we've had some changes at the federal level, but you talk about your own generation, and I think how we talk about that is the generation mix. You know, you talk a lot about reliability. How does that mix get decided of how much fossil fuels versus renewables versus coal versus, you know, whatever you have?
Yeah, I mean, for us, there is only one mindset, one focus, and that's creating affordable, reliable electricity. So we call it baseload generation. So something that can go on and stay on 24 hours. And you know, I think the toughest role of any utility company or cooperative is, what do you do when everybody on your entire system decides to turn on every space heater, air conditioner, dryer, dishwasher, and microwave and TV at the same time? You have to have enough electricity to power all of that at all the time. And it doesn't happen very often, but being able to serve those peaks. So we have a really unique mix where we have base load generation. Those are our coal plants. We've got a couple of gas plants, and then we have 7 gas plants, but some of those are what we call peakers, so they can turn on quickly.
I have to ask you about rates and how you set them and the strategy. You know, there's been a lot of controversy about electric rates in Columbia, for instance, and there seems to be sort of a progressive mentality in some places at some times that the more you use, especially if you have peak usage, boy, you're going to get hammered. And others, but I'm thinking, well, in typical commodity type things, you'd think, well, the more I use, I ought to get a volume discount. How are these? I mean, are there several models of rate setting, and does each local community have its way to do that?
So the
talk
local
a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the local cooperatives set these rates.
Yeah. What kind of model do they use, though?
So we call it demand rate. So when every person on the line turns on everything, we have to have that electricity available. And like it or not, the base load generation, the stuff like the first 80% is pretty easy. We know we can calculate that. We can't really calculate when things peak. And that extra just gap between the base load and the peak costs a lot of money to generate. And so we really try to charge our member owners exactly what they're using and exactly what it costs us to pass it on to them.
So no surcharge if you're a heavy user?
No surcharge if you're a heavy user, but it does vary if it peaks.
Yeah, okay. Because someone's got to pay for that. So that's almost like a user fee, right? I mean, if you're a peak user and you're using more of the peak demand and creating more demand, then it makes sense. If you're on the toll road and you pass through the booth more often, you pay more, right?
Yeah. Well, and you know, the co-ops, we kind of pride ourselves on not picking winners and losers.
Right.
And we want everybody to pay their fair share. But, you know, here's the reality. If we charge too much to everyone, we give it back at the end of the year in the form of capital credits. So,
well, and I think the other difference is when you're dealing with these big companies, and no hate to them or whatever, it's like, who do I call? If I'm at a co-op and I'm unhappy with my rate, I call my friend or neighbor who got elected to the board, right?
Exactly.
And complain.
Having lived in St. Louis and then in rural Missouri, I have a little farm in Macon, and then it was up in Scotland County, and The service is amazing, and it's much easier to talk to a person when the lights go out, when things are happening. You know, I mean, I just have always felt as though the service was much more personal and more. It just always felt real good, and I got a sense I wasn't in especially unique co-ops. That seems to be the nature.
No, that's really what we do. You know, the people that run our co-ops, the people that work for our co-ops, the people that are served by our co-ops are all the same people.
Okay, John.
Caleb, talk to us. We had Larry Behrens from Power of the Future on with us the other day, and we brought up to him Central Electric Co-op, their coal-fired plant, Chamoy, that went offline, 10 years ago or so? He said with the Trump administration, the way things are going at the EPA, maybe the environment could get a whole lot friendlier for the end user.
Well, I'll tell you, the push from the previous administration was for everybody in the entire country to turn off all coal and all gas and essentially rely strictly on wind and solar. Here's the reality. There are times where the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. And then what do you do? And so thankfully, what that meant was that with this goal of shutting all those down, the EPA really started changing the rules, rates, and procedures and everything pertaining to all gas and coal across the country. Luckily, the Missouri Electric Co-ops stayed strong. We kept our 2 coal plants going, our 7 gas plants. Luckily, those rules from the EPA are currently being litigated, but they're going to be withdrawn and pulled back. So we kind of fought the fight. We were really leaders in the country on this and kept our reliable, affordable energy for our member owners.
I have about 30 seconds, lightning round. Everyone's talking about modular nuclear. I mean, is nuclear's time here?
Look, I would love to say yes. Here's the reality. It's going to take a really long time to get any kind of nuclear.
Regulatory-wise.
Yeah,
and just
from a regulatory standpoint.
Okay. Caleb Jones, thank you for helping maintain all of rural Missouri's lights and making sure they're on.
Well, I've got a fun closing fact for you. The first electric cooperative in the state was Boone Electric Cooperative,
Really?
1936.
Holy cow.
And they're also the 3rd lowest rate in the state as well.
There you go.
So
Wow.
Great electric cooperative ran by great people.
Rates just went up now that they found out that they're low. Okay, thanks, Caleb. Appreciate it. When we come back, John, what's up?
Stephanie can relate mistaken identity on the internet.
Be back in a sec.
This is
And that would be all, except for this.
Indianapolis-based bankruptcy attorney Mark S. Zuckerberg is suing Meta, the company of Mark E. Zuckerberg, because the former's Facebook page keeps getting shut down. Attorney says it's not funny. Meta has been accusing me of impersonating a celebrity and using a false name, which he said, quote, I've had way longer than he has. He says, I'd rather not pick a fight with them, but I don't know how else to make them stop. He said his attorney business account has been removed 5 times, his personal account 4 times. Says it's not right and they need to stop. And so they have. Meta confirms that Zuckerberg's account is back up after being disabled in error. And we take you to Stephanie Bell, who can relate when it comes to dissing rap stars on the internet.
It was horrible. So if you missed this story, right around on my 40th birthday, I made TMZ, actually, because
I didn't know that.
the day before that Nicki Minaj went live on her, I think on Twitter, or maybe it was TikTok, and said
It's Twitter.
she was being swatted. It was Twitter, being swatted, which somebody was like calling DFS or DPS on her. And she announced that the person who was swatting her was none other than Stephanie Bell. I was at the first presidential debate were we in Milwaukee? And my phone turned into a brick because I was getting hundreds of hate tweets because so everyone just said, oh, she said it's Stephanie Bell. They went to Twitter, they Googled, and I guess I'm the first Stephanie Bell that comes up. And so they started tweeting the most hateful things at me, like, I'm coming for you, blah, 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 whatever. So I didn't really know what to do. I had enough juice left to tweet back, like, we have no hate, it's not me, whatever. And then they turned around and they were so sweet. And I saved some. They said, so they call themselves the Barbs, like the Barbies, I think. Mm-hmm. The Barbs is her people. And it said, we Barbs support our white Republican queen. And they said, sorry, queen. They said, oh my gosh, you're actually gorgeous. And I guess she has some sort of song that says, we all have a Republican doctor. And they said, help me. We all made friends with a Republican politician. And so apparently they're more Republican than I thought. And they said, sorry, queen, hashtag MAGA. And I mean, it's cute. That's cute. And they're like, whatever you need. So they quickly apologized. But for about 4 hours, I was in the crosshairs, and they were very confused and thought that I was the other Stephanie Bell, who I think actually ended. I think she went to court. I think Nicki Minaj.
I think she did. I think they charged
for
her.
harassing her or something.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you were in a Republican enclave with Jen Bukowski, who we have it on good authority, who was armed at the time.
Yeah, well, and we were at the first presidential debate, so the security was, and we were already on the inside, and I'm like, the security here is really good, so I think we're safe. But if I would have been anywhere else, I would have been a little bit concerned. Because they were coming for me.
So what happened at the presidential debate was reprised again on your birthday. You said you were on your birthday.
This was. So then the next day, TMZ puts out the article about about how, the whole ordeal. And then they ended up actually like putting a screenshot of my tweet, like, hey, you got the wrong gal.
To their credit, though, when you corrected them, they corrected their thought.
Did.
That's
they
good.
Did.
To their credit.
Yeah, they had nice things to say.
That's good.
So.
But how did that feel to be, like you said, in the crosshairs? I mean, metaphorically, with all of that hate. It's got to feel weird, huh?
Well, I couldn't read it as fast as it was coming in. It was just like something. I mean, I was very confusing because, of course, I wasn't watching Nicki Minaj's live TikTok, so I couldn't fit. And then at the time, I don't think I fully understood what swatting meant. And so I had to do a lot of research. At the same time, I couldn't really use my phone because the notifications were going crazy. But Jen was helping me, and we felt like we were in a safe place. But it was a couple hours of pretty intense, and it was intense. I'll say that. I hope it never happens to you, Randy.
No, you don't want to be on the receiving end of that kind of hate. We talked about the DOJ investigating maybe taking guns away from transgenders, and a lot of people feel squeamish about that. It's like, oh, man. Well, when you find out about the former girlfriend of the shooter in Minneapolis, you may have a different thought. That coming up soon.
From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters, it's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team. And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Down for the Blue Hens. Minicucci is very willing to run, and he is dropped at the 50-yard line. Martavius French, who had 2 fumble recoveries early last week, takes him down.
Nobody goes, I throw.
Here's a run.
Well, there was
and it's Salter again.
It looks like we have some mixed up audio there. That was I've tried to play an amazing run by a catch and run by Coleman, wide receiver Coleman. You think about it, Coleman, Roberts, help me, the other running back scored the first touchdown.
Amon Hardy,
Right,
there's
Amon Hardy.
Roberts, there's Coleman,
We had
there's
Norfleet
Marquise
catching
Johnson.
things. I mean, it was just Marquise Johnson. It was an amazing array of offensive weapons demonstrated in the MU over KU victory the other day. It was great to see.
Hey, this is big. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
No.
for
Am I getting
our
too
Missouri
excited
State
about this?
fans,
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to win a game this season.
Yeah.
They beat Marshall, and Marshall was supposed to be good. So this is big for them. I think they're getting overshadowed a little
Wow.
bit. Don't get me wrong. It's
No.
big for Mizzou, but Missouri State, you're showing out that you can play. So good job, guys.
So Marshall was favored in that one?
Oh, yes, heavily. They were like in the top 5 for like the group of 5 team. So that's
Wow.
big for them.
Big-
Congratulations.
Good for them. Well, that's great to see. It's just it's fun when the weather is like it is and college sports is in the air, football especially. It's just amazing. It's a great time.
Yeah, this is the best time to be alive right now.
I got the biggest kick out of it, the Tiger tailgate. It was great seeing many of you out there. And John, you were hanging out with us at the tailgate, and boy, there were people lined up all the way back to the Missouri Arena building practically. It was
We did. Boy, we had a good time. Had folks come out, dive bar, did it up right.
Yep.
Great chow, big crowd. And we saw one of our buddies who is now with the University of Missouri, and he was regaling us with tales of inappropriate signs he saw on behalf of some of the Tiger fans who he had to gently say, you might want to lose that one.
The exuberance is a little over-exuberant sometimes, especially when you're on the national stage, right?
Is there
The
such
cameras are
thing
rolling.
as over-exuberance when it comes to
Well,
Kansas?
Well, you
Heck
could.
no.
I think
Maybe
you can,
when it comes to the
I don't know.
FCC or like public broadcasting.
I don't know. I think you can hurt your brand with too much vulgarity.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
No, you
yeah,
cannot.
I think
With
you can.
violence, yes.
I think you can.
Vulgarity.
No, you can't.
I mean,
Like, as long as you don't kill someone, you're fine.
573-874-9390 if you'd like to weigh in on that. Do you find pleasure in seeing signs that have vulgarity involved? Or would
Some
you
of
rather
them
just
are-
seen clean, good, KU, kill the Hawks?
No.
you know?
No, I'm going to stand on this. No, I mean, the people that are going to disagree with me and everyone else here, I mean, they're the reason why these rivalries are dying. They're the reason why college sports isn't as fun as it used to be. I mean, grow a pair and hate on your rivals. This is what college sports is about. I'm not going to bow down to, we got to be nice to these Jayhawks. No.
I didn't say be nice. You can be mean-spirited.
and
you
if you're
can be
going to the
hateful.
work of like making your own T-shirt or your own poster, you're not going to say like "Go Mizzou." You're going to come up with
But you
something
could come
clever.
up with something more clever that has to do with
a lot of the
Hawks
clever ones.
and, I don't know,
We saw some pretty clever ones.
predatory behavior. You could do something. I mean, that's not creative to just
It's
say
good.
F you.
It doesn't have to be creative. It just has to be hateful.
I mean, it'd be a way better use of your time than the people who were standing over the tri-level with a sheet that said "Release the files." That's how they spent their Saturday.
Sign of the times on Wake Up Missouri. This is the environment we're in. That's okay.
You're weakening our society, Randy.
Maybe not.
100%.
Time will tell. 573-874-9390, the number if you'd like to weigh in on the news of the day. You know, we talked a little bit about last week about how the DOJ is investigating how and if and when and should they think about promoting a prohibition on transgender people's Second Amendment rights, right? Just because they're transgender. A lot of people are in favor of that because several of the mass shootings have been transgender shootings. Now, the left is painting the picture as you guys are distorting the data. If you look at murders that are done with gun violence, their favorite two words, gun violence, gun violence. But they're including people in there that are like, gangs in Chicago and North Columbia and so forth.
Yeah,
KU fans.
I haven't seen this data, but I would be interested as like a percentage of population, right? Like what's the overall percentage of population of transgender people, and then what's their propensity to shoot others? Because they were saying like the total number of murders is, or of gun violence with transgender is low, but also their total population is low, right? So, but I think as a percentage of the population, they might have a higher propensity. I mean, I think white males is probably up there when you talk mass shootings.
But following that argument, then we would want to, if there's an overrepresentation among mass shootings among white males, does that mean we should outlaw Second Amendment rights against, all white males? 573-874-9390 if you'd like to text.
For a while there, after Columbine and then, all of the other, for a while there, it was young white males. And that's kind of, and so, you don't want to stereotype or profile, but also you have to find a way if you're in law enforcement or schools or other things to try to prevent these things. And so if there appears to be a pattern, I don't think people's guns should be taken away any more than we already do that for people who have serious mental illness or don't have the capacity. Anyway, but I do think understanding more about what might cause people to go over the edge, and if there a pattern emerges, then I think we should pay more attention to those types of people. And you can't deny that, the kid that was the white young male who was dressed all in black, who was kind of a loner, that folks were paying attention to those guys, in my college, high school and college, when when the shootings kind of really kicked off. And if that pattern's changing, I don't think it's wrong to start paying more attention to these folks.
There is an argument about, at what level of mental illness should we say someone should not have a deadly weapon, especially a gun? Are we going to take away their knives? Where does it end? But let's just, for sake of argument, let's just say that there should be some bar beyond which your craziness, at least temporarily, exempts you from having a gun. Well, okay, and the argument is, transgender people have a mental illness. I'm laying out the argument. They have a mental illness. There's a difference between gender identity and, wanting to put on a dress and being a cross-dresser and having dysphoria and depression, and which we know can lead to violence against self or others, along with anxiety and substance use all put together. Those are all risk factors. And so as evidence that this guy was this guy, if there was ever someone that shouldn't have had a gun, now the Daily Mail is reporting, because he kept in his writings talking about Abby. Well, apparently he had broken up, not exactly sure on the timeline, but broken up with a 22-year-old Abigail Bodick, who was a furry, or who is a furry, and
dresses like a cat,
and sort of looks like something out of the Broadway musical Cats, and his rationale was, here's a quote out of his writing: "I like feeling sexy and cute, but my face never matches how I feel. I hate my face. Maybe that's why I like furries so much. You can give yourself a new body and a face." So we know that, for instance, look, Karen Carpenter died of anorexia, right? That's a body dysmorphia. When someone who has a normal body image looks in the mirror and says, "I am obese," and then they starve themselves and their heart stops because their potassium level goes to pot. Okay, so but I just think that we need to maybe, when there's how many spokes of craziness do you need out of the hub of the individual to say, it's time that we say no. We just say no.
But the problem is, who says no? And ultimately that's the government. And I really don't want the government deciding whether people can have weapons or not when it's a close call, when there's any kind of gray area at all. I think the other thing that, I think about this DOJ thing, we're going to take guns away from transgender people. Crazy people are going to be crazy, and it's not the guns. And so what we've seen lately in Europe and in the United States is they'll drive their car straight into a crowd of people. They will, fix up some sort of bomb like they did in Nashville, right? We can take away their guns. If they're that crazy, they're going to find another way.
I tend to agree with you. I think that, like you say, if you generalize out of a series of incidents that seems to lay out a pattern, does that justify taking away the weapons from a whole swath of people, the majority of whom maybe a little off, but they're not going to shoot people, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of, and you've seen some of the stories that came out, and they tried to hash that out. And I know some of the big network stories after the Minnesota shooting said, 95% of shooters in mass shootings are male. And, you can talk about the trans folks and gender dysphoria and having some honest mental health issues, but I don't think it's played out that they're overly violent compared to the rest of society. Do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I don't know.
They may have mental health issues, but not violent mental health issues.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, most people with mental health issues are not violent. The 99, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's got to be overwhelmingly peaceful people who have a problem, and most of them know it, and most of them want treatment, and most of them can't get treatment because we have just a terribly broken mental health system.
You might make that argument for the ones who are involved in crime to support, their addiction issues that have a mental health basis and all. And those folks, by the nature of being involved in crime, could potentially be the violent side of it.
Yeah. Shelley says, if gender dysphoria is a mental illness, is that an issue to own a gun? And then she I won't out her. Let's just say she feels strongly about her KU sentiments, her anti-KU sentiments. Clint points out, how about the religious fanatic who shot the congressman in Minnesota, right? Killed a state senator and, I think the wife of a rep,
and I
right?
think didn't he identify as being some gender dysphoria issues?
I don't know. All we know is he was appointed by Waltz and disaster area guy. I just think it's a tough issue, but at the end of the day, and what's really weird, you talk about how, the ultimate solution to these things is have the best defense against someone with a gun is a good guy with a gun or a gal, right? Well, in this instance up in Minneapolis, that was from outside the church, right? That's the problem. The guy wasn't there. I mean, you'd minimize the damage by the time someone came out of the building and nailed him, but took him out, but it wasn't like he walked in guns a-blazing. What do you think about that? Guns in the schools for teachers, trained people, teachers, administrators, principals. I like it. I think it's a good idea. And posted widely and boldly everywhere. Important.
And thinking back, I'm glad our coaches didn't have guns.
We'll be back with the Marker Report in a minute. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Wake Up.
That's the Morning Bell. How's it looking at the beginning of the week?
The lackluster jobs report last week left us in the red Friday with the Dow down 0.48%, the S&P down 0.32%, the NASDAQ down 0.03%. Amongst the biggest losers were energy and financials. Still gaining was communication services and real estate. We've got more economic news on the way as we will get an inflation report out on Thursday. And of course, that next Fed meeting is next week. So a lot going on when it comes to the economy. Tomorrow's one of my favorite days of the year, Randy. I hope you're excited. I hope you celebrate. It is Apple's big event. And I love new tech. And so I can't wait. They've been taking some criticism from, I think, the tech industry for not focusing as much on AI and also not unveiling like any new products. I think I saw the details on the revenue that they've received over the last several years. And really, they are just like banking on AirPods because now everyone has AirPods. When you lose your AirPods, you buy more. Some people have more than one set of AirPods. But the AirPods aren't anything real new. And the iPhone has been the iPhone for quite some time. And so there for a while, Apple was always unveiling the iPhone, the iPad, the AirPods, the Apple Watch, like a new product. And we haven't really had a new product out as of late. And we're not expecting anything super new tomorrow. They will be unveiling a new phone. It is the iPhone 17 Air. I don't think I will be purchasing it. However, it is going to be so that your current iPhone is about 7.8 millimeters thick. Randy, you've got the Pro. That's 8.3 millimeters thick. So kind of, a little bit of a brick.
And a case to it. It's like a briefcase in your pocket.
Right. Well, this new iPhone Air will be 5.5 millimeters thin.
Whoa.
So a lot thinner. So for folks who like to put my pants are too tight. I can't put my phone in my pants pocket.
But what
Isn't there a new Apple Watch too?
They are going to come out with a new watch and new AirPods. And Randy, I thought this might interest you. They other folks have been testing out, and Apple apparently filed some paperwork, and they're thinking perhaps the new AirPods might have some health features to them that they've been apparently experimenting. Now, this is all rumored. We'll find out more tomorrow. But they've been experimenting with allowing your AirPods to get your heart rate and maybe do in-ear temperature.
Wow.
And so they're saying, like, for some people who don't want to, like, run with their Apple Watch for their heart rate, you'd be able to get that right out of your AirPods.
Well, the latest generation of AirPods already acts as a hearing aid if you need that, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
and it does a lot of noise canceling.
Yeah,
so, again, a lot of this stuff is rumored. The phone we know more about, but as far as the other products, and they always try to surprise everyone with like some other announcement. So I'm excited. I guess there are some features. They said with the new phone, because it's going to be so thin, the battery's going to be smaller and perhaps not have as good battery life, which I'm thinking that's an immediate no for me.
Right.
The other thing, it is 2025, and the fact that you can't use your phone when it's sunny. If you could just tell me that I could have my phone at the lake and I could actually see the screen, I would buy that. Like, charge me twice, right? So great that we can test our
Good idea.
body temperature, but like, what about being able to use it when it's sunny? That seems like a first order priority.
You know what the dermatologist would say? That's a reminder that you shouldn't be in the sun so much.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
Is Vladimir Putin playing Donald Trump and the rest of the Western world like a violin? We'll talk about that when we come back at 8:35. More coming up on Wake Up Missouri.
Vice President Vance had a very productive call with EU President Ursula von der Leyen on Friday. She followed up with a call with me, and we are talking about what can the two EU and the U.S. do together. And we are prepared to increase pressure on Russia, but we need our European partners to follow us, because if the U.S. and the EU do this together, we are in a race now between how long can the Ukrainian military hold up versus how long can the Russian economy hold up.
It is a war of attrition, is it not, in the Ukraine? I mean, there's no doubt about it. And Vladimir Putin, in the most aggressive attack on the capital there of Ukraine, attacked a government building for the first time. And it seems like every day or every other day we're hearing about the most vicious attack, the strongest air attack, the biggest assault on whatever.
This was the largest drone assault so far.
I mean, this is just crazy. He is just, I don't know. They had this drive to peace when Trump held the summit, first with him, then with the European leaders holding forth in the Oval Office, and you thought things were on track. And Putin's like laughing. And yet we keep hearing. I mean, we talked to Kurt Jefferson, Professor Jefferson. We talked to so many people. I hear the talking heads on the conservative newswire saying, "Oh, this is just Putin's desperation."
Doesn't come off like that, does it?
What does Putin have to be desperate about? The numbers, apparently soldiers are signing up. He's had a friendly talk with China. He's winning the war. He's consolidating the land he's taken.
Yeah, he wants to keep the Donbass region in its entirety and Crimea. And I think from behind the scenes, they were trying to do some jockeying there and let Ukraine hang on to some of it. And I don't think Putin's having any of that argument.
What is this? I got to be careful about this. What does this say about Donald Trump? All through the campaign season, I thought irresponsibly said he would stop the war in 24 hours. That's irresponsible, in my opinion. It bothered me because I knew it was going to come back. We all knew it was going to come back to bite him. And not only that, it seems like he's now coming back to the table and talking with Putin. I said it before, but I think Biden got it right. Don't talk with this man. Maybe Joe Biden wasn't wrong. George Bush tried to talk on that matter. I don't think he was. George Bush tried to look into his eyes and got mesmerized. Barack Obama said, just give to Medvedev, just give me a little more time, and Vlad and I can work things out. There's something sinister, satanically evil about Vladimir Putin.
So
you don't look Satan in the eye and try to talk to him and try to persuade him to be a good guy.
So imagine Trump kept Biden's policy and hadn't said two words to Putin since he was in office. How do you think things would have changed?
I didn't say that. I didn't say he shouldn't have acted kinetically. That's a different
But you said
thing.
that his policy was right. Joe Biden's policy was right.
I didn't say Joe. I said
you said that he wasn't wrong.
And you want to play the rest of the darn statement? I said when it comes to not talking to him.
So no diplomacy.
You're pulling a CBS on me, Drake.
No, so no diplomacy. That's what you're saying. No diplomacy would be better than talking
when
to
you
him.
get taken to the cleaners by Vladimir Putin.
Drake's having a little bit of fun taking some things out of context, but I think you're wrong, Randy. I think talking to him and I think keeping your enemies close is important, and I think the only person that can keep Vlad in line is Trump, and I think ignoring him is not the way to go because he is egotistical. He's crazy, but he needs to be I think Trump needs to convince him that whatever the end is like his idea, right? Or like he had a role in it, and then he will finally accept it. I think I don't think. I mean, what are the other options? Do you think Trump we should just bomb the hell out of Russia? I mean, what?
Yes.
Well,
I didn't say that. I didn't say we should bomb the hell out of Russia, but I'm just saying talking to him. I think sometimes walking quietly and not saying a thing sends a bigger message.
Well, he's penalizing everyone who's doing economic deals with Russia. He's putting the pressure on their economy. And I think that's one way. I mean, they can keep making military advancements, but if their economy starts crumbling, it's really going to put the pressure on Putin to do something different. And that's what Besant, I think, who was talking there, Besant?
Going to push him right into China's hands again.
I
thought that was the trouble that Barack Obama was getting
into. I think the one talking point that everybody seems to miss here when Putin and Trump were doing the buddy-buddy thing, bottom line is Vladimir Putin was a foreign intelligence officer for the KGB for 15 or 20 years and left KGB active duty as like a lieutenant colonel. I mean, that's where this guy comes to it from his KGB background. I don't trust him anything he has to say, and I don't think anybody else should either.
Scott Bessent talks about we're going to do sanctions better than Biden. We're going to do sanctions better than we did them the first time. Well, so they're now trying to punish India. Welcome into the Sino-Indian coalition, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I just think when India and China start buying and start being one another's markets, and they buddy up with Putin again, look, I don't know that I have the answer, but clearly, does anyone think that talking to Vladimir Putin has worked? Does anyone show me the evidence that that's worked? Drake,
I was just going to say that China is getting the lost end of the deal if they're dealing with India because, unless if it's fertilizer, because they got a lot of poop.
Answer my question. How has talking with Vladimir Putin helped?
How did not talking to Vladimir Putin help? It didn't. And so turn that on its head. I think it hasn't helped yet. And I think there are a lot of us, I think both of us sitting here are frustrated that it's taking so long. But also these are complicated problems, complicated people. And I think we'd all like to see the war solved in 24 hours. We knew that wasn't going to happen. But I think the real frustration for me is that it seemed like we had momentum, 2 weeks ago, and it seems like that's fallen away.
I didn't think we had momentum at all. I mean, Zelensky's a crazy madman too. I mean, the guy, he had a good offer on the deal a year or two ago. He could have put a stop to it then, and he didn't. So at this point, it's almost like let him go.
We got to that deal where Zelensky was able to negotiate and maybe end the war because we talked to, Putin. I mean, we made the deal back whenever he didn't wear his suit or whatever. We were ready to make that deal, but he said no, he was disrespectful, and now this war is still going on and people are still dying.
I actually think that Trump had a golden opportunity that he lost. After that dust-up in the White House, when he called out Zelensky and said, look, you don't have any cards. But behind the scenes, I think there was an opportunity for him to basically, walk away, give up some land, it's all over, right? Be done. And that's when he could have.
That's the bottom line. I think you're on the money with that.
He could have pulled the rug out, right, from underneath Zelensky and say, look, you either knuckle down or you talk about lack of support, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because Zelensky, I think, is the real problem here. He's in a losing situation. Meanwhile,
and he has said from the get-go, we're not going to give up one square mile of Ukraine to the Russians.
Look, and Drake, I want to be perfectly clear for those who are just joining us. When I said that I think Joe Biden may have gotten it right, I was talking about not talking with Vladimir Putin. And you unfairly, you pulled a CBS on me.
Now,
you edited that out of context. Now, having said that, you have time to repent. You have time to repent because CBS has repented when they cut out and edited Kristi Noem's thing the other day. They're actually going to post the full. Are they going to do it online, Stephanie?
Probably. I mean, she already posted the full thing all over Twitter.
But they're going to start doing that. No, but for those of you, all I said was I just think that silence sometimes speaks mountains. Silence just speaks volumes rather than trying to talk with Vladimir Putin. 573-874-9390, our number. I'm just trying to see what we have here. And you know what? It turns out that perhaps if Trump would have been in office, I do agree that had Trump been in office when Biden said, well, a small incursion's not a big deal, Trump wouldn't have said that. Trump would have actually, I think, threatened and maybe even followed through with a little kinetic action, even by a proxy Western Europe, the minute that Putin stepped foot into those areas, right? But now that that's lost and you've already, the picture's been mainly painted, it's hard to erase the canvas again and repaint it. It just really is. And I continue to be worried about the China, shall we say, Southeast Asian, Russian coalition. I'm really worried about that.
Well, you got to factor Iran in there, too, because Iran and China are Russia's currently biggest oil partners as customers, taking the vast majority, all that stuff there, even after the G7 put a price cap on oil going to those several countries from Russia. But
and then here's another very, very troubling, you can call it conspiracy theory, but I'm not so sure. Is it to our advantage? Is it to Donald Trump's economic advantage? Is it to America's economic advantage, no matter who's in office, to make sure that war keeps going on, to buy our defense stuff? They need our defense stuff. They need Northrop Grumman and they need Boeing to keep producing those missiles and planes that we're selling to Ukraine or we're selling to the Western Europe and they're giving to Ukraine. However, it's working out.
I think that one nuke to the Three Gorges Dams in China wipes out like a third of their population. I mean, I don't think that China is as big of a threat as we seem to put them out to be. I think just one nuke, take care of it all. Let's do it right now. All in favor, say
Drake.
yay.
This is from the guy that says we need more vulgarity on the screens during the KU game.
Not necessarily on the screens, just chirping out the people on the streets.
Hey, okay, we got to step aside, but when we come back, speaking of vulgarity and appropriateness thereof or not, and believe you me, behind the scenes, I've been known to occasionally embarrass a drunken sailor, and I feel bad about that. But I try not to do it in public, and I try not to do it at all, but that doesn't always work out well. I'm sorry. I have to go to confession. But did you see what J.D. Vance posted the other day? He's catching a little heat about that. We'll talk about that when we come back and do some leftovers. Stay tuned.
This
Well, everyone's feeling pretty good on the heels of that big MU over KU victory. It was super good. Who's up next?
What do you mean? For us?
Yeah.
That's actually a good question. I don't know.
I thought was it South? No.
Might be Louisiana.
It's LSU next, and then I think
So what
you're
is
We
right.
don't play. Whoa. Let's hold up, John. It is not LSU. It is Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. LSU is a much different team.
Pardon me. You're right. Yeah, and it is Louisiana. It's
Yeah.
not Louisiana State.
So are they part of the SEC?
No, they're not part
Okay.
of the SEC. They're going to be another cupcake game.
Then the following
Hopefully.
week, then we get to take on the 11th ranked South Carolina guys.
You know, I always enjoy watching a team that has a really hearty victory. That was really quite something to come back from, 15 points down in the first quarter, come back, tie it up by the end of the first half, and then really, back and forth, and then finally, make it clear who was the boss. That was good. You always wonder. I think it's a sign of coaching, and Drinkwitz is, I think, a master at this. Very, very good. And that's probably one of the key difference makers in a college coach. You have young men who can get a little bit of swagger when, that can get you. It's that next game, especially when it's, like you say, supposed to be a cakewalk, it's that next game. I want to see how they do. I mean, if they really perform very, very well and execute things well, and, that's going to be great. That's really good. I think there's always a little bit of vulnerability in that next game after such a big, you're so pumped up, right? We'll have to see how it works out. Now, we were talking a little bit about propriety of language among our professional class and our political class. Did you see the dust up over J.D. Vance had posted something. He posted on Twitter, killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens, talking about that Tren de Agua where Trump decided to knock that boat carrying, 11 or 12 of them, alleged drug runners, and just turn them into an oil slick. So he said, killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. A harasser online, Brian Krasenstein, killing the citizens of another nation who are civilians without any due process is called a war crime. He rebuts. And J.D. Vance said, I don't give a S what you call it. But he didn't say S ... He spelled it out. And some are saying, hey, Christian husband, father, U.S. vice president, how's that working out for you? Is that, I don't know. Does that tarnish his brand or does that elevate him? It's like, yeah, baby, good.
Kind of like the president and the F-bomb.
Yeah. I don't care for it myself. I don't think it's necessary, but I know it resonates with a lot of people. I mean, what do you think, Steph? You
I'm
okay?
here for the F-bombs.
You okay with it, Stephanie? Drake, you okay with it?
Yeah, I'm good with this.
John?
No, I'm like you. I think it's inappropriate and not very presidential of them.
Yeah. I think you can be hard-hitting. You can be out there. You can be transparent. You can be bold. But I'm just not sure that it's not sure it's as effective with as many Americans as I'd like it to be. I think a person could have even more aplomb if they...
I think a clever insult is probably more impressive than just like a random cuss word.
Like Ronald Reagan and his, the bombs will drop in 10 minutes. And, as opposed to, swear. You just don't see that coming out of Ronald Reagan type. But
like I saw a bunch of funny insults online to use against men. And, just like you're ugly as one.
Great.
But like you look like you don't know how to ride a bike, I think is a really good one. You look like you still read with your finger.
I think that's great. Yeah, I
think
love that.
So I prefer like a little bit more
fun.
clever.
Yeah.
But I don't mind an F-bomb when it's warranted.
Yeah.
We're talking about the same guy who has a picture online of him in his college days passed out in a bush. I just want to put that out there. We don't talk about this enough. He's passed out in a bush.
Who?
J.D. Vance. He was blacked out.
He was a jarhead. Give him some slack.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a jarhead. Give him some slack. He can say the S word.
I'm not. Look, and I live in a glass house, right? Every time that I utter a cuss word, I feel bad about it. I feel good about it. I get worked up, and it happens sometimes. You guys have witnessed that, right?
Sure
I don't feel good about it. And if I did that, publicly, I would be really disgraced. I mean, it's just not right.
Nah.
No?
Get over it.
I don't like it.
I have to give a shout out to Justin who texted us. I think he might win the award for being the furthest away. He's in Africa. I hope he's catching. I saw this. You got to go see the video on the Journal. The largest migration ever.
Yes.
Like millions of antelopes in Africa right now. Go look at the video. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Shout out to Justin, though. Thanks for listening from Africa.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for being with us this morning. Tomorrow we talk about the small business report, right? With Brad, I think. We'll talk then.